So, welcome back, people of the world. A few weeks ago, in fact about 3-4 months ago, I did a trailer asking the question, which is more popular between Avatar and Jurassic Park? Okay, capital. This list is actually taken from Wikipedia. The Justice for Inflation highest grossing films of all time. So, I was asking the question, which is more popular? Both of them use revolutionary CGI. Spielberg pushed the CGI to a whole new level with Jurassic Park and made us all believe dinosaurs are real. And Avatar was also a revolutionary photorealistic CGI, and it was also 3D as well. It was stereoscopic human vision. The stereoscopic human vision really worked as well with that one. But yeah, this took about 915 million in its original run, and this took it took 2.7 billion at the time, but when you adjust for inflation up to 2010, this is actually 2020 prices, but it was released in 2010, took 2.7 billion. So I was asking which was the most popular. One of the reasons I've asked this because I have always felt this list is faulty, because although it adjusts for ticket price inflation, it doesn't take into account that the world population's changed. There are more people in the world than there were in 1939 and in 1982 when E.T. came out. And also, a lot more countries now get films. When the Ten Commandments only went to about 20 countries or something. Whereas a film like Endgame went to about 65, about 80 or 70 or something like that. Places like China and Russia, the former communist states, never received films like Gone with the Wind, Star Wars and Sound of Music and E.T. and Ten Commandments. None of these films, and Jaws is also not on this list as well. Okay, but in its day it was the biggest grossing film of all time. That's not on the list. It's also, strangely, you got the Ten Commandments and Dr. Zhivago on the list, and even The Force Awakens, yet none of them actually held the world record. The world record being their biggest grossing film in history. These films didn't do that, yet they somehow beat Jurassic Park and Jaws. Why are they doing that? When these films broke the world record. So I've always felt this list is a bit flawed. Population's got a lot bigger over time, and a lot more countries now get films and used to get films in the past. I think the communist countries opened up in the late 1990s. When Titanic was released. So I thought I'd do a different, I came up with a different way of, I worked out a few years ago a different way of comparing the films, which I will show you next. It is involved so deducting countries from grosses that, if I compared Avatar, so I compared Avatar to Jurassic Park and also compared Avatar to Star Wars, the 1977 version, which became world record holder, Avatar to E.T. and Avatar to Jurassic Park. I also compared E.T. to Jurassic Park, and I think I compared the Force Awakens to the original Star Wars, because this broke the American and British records at the time it was released. So I compared those two to see how popular this really was. Okay, I haven't actually looked at Endgame in my analysis because that came out in 2019. I'm only comparing films to Avatar, which came out in 2010. So Endgame isn't in my analysis, but the rest are. Okay, but yeah, so that's the original. So what I did was I compared Avatar with E.T., The Force Awakens with Star Wars, 1977 film, Avatar with Jaws, Avatar with Jurassic Park, Avatar with Star Wars, Avatar with Star Wars, 1977 film, and Jurassic Park with E.T., okay? I did this one for fun. because that was Spielberg's third one to break world record, and that was the second one to break the world record. World record equaling highest grossing film of all time. So what I did was I took Avatar and added up the sum of all the countries that got Avatar but never got E.T. And then I deducted that total from Avatar's 2.7 billion. So that was, I added up all the countries that got Avatar but didn't get E.T. I deducted that from Avatar's total. And then I adjusted E.T. up using the Terameter prices to 2010 prices. And when I did that, from E.T. just up to 2.9 billion at 2010 and 3.6 billion in 2016. Avatar reduced down about 1.1 billion. When I did Avatar and Jaws, I did the same thing. Avatar reduced down to about 1 billion. Jaws reduced up, adjusts up to about 2.2 billion. When I did Jurassic Park and Avatar reduced down to about 900 million, about 990 million or something. And Jurassic Park adjusts up to 1.3 billion. When I compared Avatar with this Star Wars, like the original one, again Avatar reduced down to about 1.1 billion, and Star Wars adjusts up to about 4 billion. And I also compared these two, so when I reduced Jurassic Park to the same audience E.T. was released in, same population size, Jurassic Park fell to about 928 million, E.T. adjusts up to 1.14 billion. Okay, and I compared The Force Awakens with this one. Everybody loved this. They were a bit critical of it. In comparison, this film was swept an entire generation off its feet. This amazed the whole world, this film. So The Force Awakens, when I adjust it back to 1977 population size and countries of release, it falls down from 2 billion to 974 million. Whereas Star Wars, the 550 million gross, adjusts up to about 4.3 billion. Okay? At 2010 prices. A bit over 4 billion. So, yeah, 4.3 billion. This is at 20, that's actually at 20, I should say. That's at 2016 prices, okay? So Star Wars adjusts up to 4.3 billion. Rather more successful than this one, which took 2 billion. Adjusting this back to 1977 population size, it took 974 million. But in its actual run, it took 2 billion. This one adjusts up. This one in it adjusted up to 2016 prices, took more than twice that. So it was far more popular. Took 4.3 billion. So that's basically a summary of what I found. So what I did was I took, as an example, when I compared E.T. and Avatar. Avatar was released in about 70 countries, E.T. was released in about 40. I think it was actually about 38 or something like that. And I added up the total of all countries that got Avatar but not E.T. So I was only trying to whittle this down, so I was only looking at countries that got both films. So I added up the total of all countries that got Avatar but not E.T. It came to about 535 million, and a bit more, 690,000. Then I deducted that from the total that Avatar got in its first run, okay? 2.7 billion, and a little bit more, okay? So I took that from that to give 2.2 billion. And then I took the ratio of the 3D price tickets and 2D price tickets, because Avatar was released in 3D in lots of cinemas, not everywhere. So some of it was 2. So 2D on average is about £6.73. 3D, slight variation in prices. I was paying 10. I think other places claim about £7.50. So the ratio of 10 to 6.73 is 1.46. Okay. So I then divide this by 1.46. Okay. Which gives this 1.4 billion. And then I took the population ratio, world population at 2010 was 7 billion, world population at 1982 was 4.5 billion. So I took that ratio, which is 1.5, and divided this by 1.5, which gives 900 million. So if you take the average of these prices, you get it comes out around about 1.1 billion. So in the countries that received E.T. and Avatar only, and in the same population size as E.T., Avatar's total 2.7 billion forced it down to around about 1.1 billion. Because that's how, and when I looked at countries like, say, compared E.T. to Jurassic Park, or The Force Awakens and to the original Star Wars, I missed out this calculation, this ratio, because obviously they were all in 2D. This was an extra ratio to work out because of the 3D to 2D difference. So that's how I did it. Okay, deducted countries from Avatar that the other film never received, and then took the ratio of population change, population size. Okay. I took this list I got from Wikipedia and I rewrote it with after doing my calculations. Gone with the Wind is still number 1. It adjusts up to this very high level value of 4.7 billion by the Terramita prices. And it's a lot higher than that, but it's still number 1 though. Star Wars 1977 has jumped from 4th to 2nd place at 4 billion, 22 in prices. I've not compared Gone with the Wind to anything here. I don't have the data. It's just an adjustment up. I think it would still come out number 1 though, because in the late 30s, early 40s, apart from theatre, there was only cinema, so it's been around a very long time. The Ten Commandments jumps up from 8th to 3rd at 3.9 billion. That does explain why it scored well on this list, because it's obviously, I think it took 55 million, just up to 70 times to about this value of 3.9 billion. I actually compared it to Jaws as well. I did a comparison adjusting it to 1975 prices. And I think I adjusted Jaws backwards. And it beat Jaws. It actually took about 200 million, I think, in the US, whereas in Jaws it took about 120 million. So Ten Commandments actually beat Jaws when you adjust it up to 1975 prices. So it was obviously very successful, it just didn't beat Gone with the Wind. E.T. moves up from 7th to 4th at 2.9 billion. Dr. Zhivago, The Sound of Music's next. That moves up 1 to 2.5 billion. Dr. Zhivago, I couldn't get data on. Titanic actually drops from 3rd to 8th. That comes out at 2.1 billion. Titanic is actually less than E.T., about 700-800 million less. Jurassic Park is now on the list, so is Jaws. Jaws is also on the list now. Jurassic Park's on at 1.5 billion. Avatar has plummeted from 2nd now to 10th at 1.1 billion. And The Force Awakens, which was at the bottom 10th, is still at the bottom, but that's down to 974 million. It's not even $1 billion now. So I think one of my main conclusions was at the time I remember journalists saying that James Cameron, when he did Avatar, they said he was a freak of filmmaking talent, and obviously he'd done Titanic. And I thought James Cameron I thought he was kind of the second Spielberg, because Spielberg broke his own record E.T. with Jurassic Park, and James Cameron broke his own record with Avatar. But this has overturned my view of Cameron's films. Obviously Cameron's he's a very clever director, but the Spielberg, as a filmmaker in my generation, in my lifetime, has an ability to make movies, E.T., Jaws and Jurassic Park. He's obviously had failures as well, but he obviously has an ability to make films which drew absolutely huge crowds, but his ability has been really unmatched. It's been unequaled by anyone. Because Star Wars and E.T. completely flatten Avatar at the box office when you compare them the way I have. They absolutely hammer it. In the countries they were released in, and Avatar was released in the same population size, the original, this is actually Lucas as well, Star Wars and E.T. absolutely hammer Avatar, they flatten it. Jaws also completely flattens Avatar, that was twice as successful. And Jurassic Park still beats Avatar. So the original Star Wars that Lucas did was way more popular. And I know people said they felt that I know a few people said they saw this one 5 or 6 times when it first came out, and they thought it had more substance than this. And then E.T. and Jaws have both absolutely hammered this, and Jurassic Park has beaten it. So I think Spielberg, as a filmmaker, I know Spielberg's his flops, but his ability to create films that created huge crowds when he was much younger was unmatched. Probably only Alfred Hitchcock and Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin have been on par with him. The Force Awakens, right now, E.T. and Jurassic Park I compared, as I said before, E.T. just up to 1.14 billion, Jurassic Park 4 was around 728 million. When I compared Force Awakens to Star Wars, the original one, at 2016 prices, this is just up to 4.3 billion, and this plummets down to 794 million. So the original Star Wars was far more popular than Force Awakens. But this is my new top, I suppose, 11, 10. I've taken up to top 11. There may be other films that might fit in between these two, but in the top 10, adjusted for inflation films, this list gets completely overturned and turned inside out by my calculation method. I think this is more accurate than this. I think this is flawed. As I said, it ignores population growth and ignores the fact that films like Star Wars and The Sound of Music were released in much lower populations and not as many countries. So I think, I can't remember how many countries that was released, maybe about 40 or something, 30 or 28, maybe 28, whereas this was released in about 75, 80 or something. So yeah, I think this is more accurate. What else can I say about it? Yeah, I was surprised that beat Jaws when adjusted up to 1975 prices, but there are a lot of very religious people in the world. It makes sense. It was also, I think, the special effects were pretty new at the time. So yeah, feast your eyes on that. I think this is the correct list.